Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're looking at an absolute marvel of resilient engineering. Think about this for a second. What if I told you that one of the most successful, most literally indestructible machines flying today is a 71-year-old design? A design that its own company's top engineer absolutely hated at first. Crazy, right? Well, I'm talking about the legendary C-130 Hercules. In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly how this aircraft has survived for over 7 decades, why it just refuses to be replaced, and the incredible engineering secret that allows it to basically come back from the dead.
To truly understand what makes the C-130 so special, we gotta drop right into the action. It's April 23, 2020. A U.S. Air Force C-130J-30 is on approach to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. The pilot in the left seat is undergoing an evaluation, and part of this test is a maximum effort landing. This is a tactical maneuver flown at very slow speeds to stop this massive aircraft in the absolute shortest possible distance. But things went terribly, terribly wrong, culminating in a horrific, brutal impact of 3.81 Gs.
Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly what went wrong. It was basically a cascading series of errors combined with a 6-knot tailwind that led to disaster. During the flare, the pilots pulled back on the thrust levers way too early. They were at around 70 feet above the runway, and they brought them all the way back to flight idle at 45 feet. Now, normally you wouldn't reduce thrust until you're at about 20 feet. In a C-130, doing this is absolutely catastrophic. Why? Because the prop wash from the engines actually helps the wing generate lift at low speeds. By pulling the power back so high up, they essentially strip the wings of that crucial lift. The aircraft didn't just descend, it just dropped out of the sky, slamming into the runway at a massive 834 feet per minute. So, the absolutely crucial point here is just how far past the physical limits this aircraft was pushed. Let's put this into perspective. Based on its weight that day, the maximum allowed sink rate was 540 feet per minute. They hit at 834. The maximum G-load with flaps extended was 2.0 Gs. They experienced an instantaneous peak between 3.62 and 3.81 Gs. The damage was absolutely brutal. The skin on the underbelly of the aircraft completely buckled. Rivets literally popped right out of the airframe, and massive cracks rippled across all the wing sections. All 4 engines, the landing gears, the propellers, all critically damaged. For almost any other aircraft on the planet, this is exactly where the story ends. The plane would just be scrapped.
But here is the massive mystery of today's explainer. Instead of being chopped up for scrap metal, this exact aircraft, the one with the destroyed wings, the busted gears, the shattered engines, was photographed flying again just 5 years later. No way, right? How is it physically or even economically possible to repair an aircraft with a broken spine and shattered wings? Well, to figure that out, we have to look back at the origins of this incredible machine.
Section 1. A boxcar with wings.
The design philosophy that made this miraculous survival possible is the very reason the C-130 almost didn't exist in the first place. Back in the early 1950s, the U.S. Air Force desperately needed a new transport plane. When Lockheed's chief engineer Hal Hibbard prepared to submit their design specs, the legendary aircraft designer Kelly Johnson stepped in. Now, Johnson is an absolute icon. He's the genius behind sleek, futuristic marvels like the SR-71 Blackbird and the U-2 spy plane. And as you can gather from this quote, Johnson absolutely hated the C-130. He wasn't impressed by some slow transport plane without machine guns that couldn't fly at Mach 3. To him, it was an ugly, lumbering beast that he honestly believed would ruin Lockheed's reputation.
But the chief designer of the C-130, Willis Hawkins, wasn't trying to build a sleek fighter jet. He was solving a strictly utilitarian problem. The military needed to move heavy equipment onto really terrible dirt runways, so Hawkins used a brutally simple design formula. He literally looked at the dimensions of the military's biggest piece of equipment, drew a circle around its cross-section, extruded that circle into a tube roughly the size of a railroad boxcar, and slapped on wings, a nose, a tail, and some sturdy, low landing gear so the ramp wouldn't be too steep. It was, at its core, the ultimate container with wings.
Section 2. The Universal Standard.
By designing a pure, uncompromised flying box, Willis Hawkins inadvertently created a total legend. Over the decades, the Hercules has taken on an absolutely absurd list of roles. It hauls paratroopers, it lands on dirt, ice, and snow, it refuels other jets in midair, it fights forest fires, it sprays crops, it flies directly into hurricanes to gather weather data, it drops massive bombs, it has even snatched returning spy satellites right out of the sky, and unbelievably, it's even managed to land on a moving aircraft carrier. It's literally the ultimate do-everything utility player.
And this brilliantly illustrates how deeply ingrained the C-130 became in military planning. Take the incredibly popular M113 armored personnel carrier. It wasn't just a vehicle that happened to fit into a plane. The military created a massive feedback loop here. Moving forward, they forced defense contractors to design completely new ground equipment entirely around the exact internal dimensions of the C-130. The plane literally dictated the size of future ground wars. It became the standardized shipping container of the sky.
Section 3. The replaceable wing box.
Let's bring our narrative back to that horrific crash at Ramstein Air Base, because now we finally get to reveal the brilliant engineering secret that saved that ruined aircraft from the scrapyard. As any aviation buff knows, the center wing box is the critical structural point where the wings meet the fuselage. It takes on all the immense loads of flight and landing. In almost every low-wing airliner you've ever flown on, this box is integrated right into the core of the plane. If it breaks, you'd basically have to dismantle the entire aircraft to replace it, which is just never worth the cost. But the C-130 is a high-wing aircraft, and crucially, its center wing box is mounted directly above the cabin. In a stroke of absolute genius, whether it was accidental or totally intentional, Lockheed made this massive structural piece completely removable.
Now, this is incredibly important, because the center wing box is what's known in aviation as a life article. These are critical components that have strict operational limits, usually based on total flight hours or stress cycles. Simply put, they eventually fail from metal fatigue. And this isn't just theory, sadly. Tragically, in 2002, an early C-130 model used for aggressive, high-stress firefighting crashed when its wing box failed from fatigue, causing both wings to literally fold upwards in midair.
Because the wing box is fully removable, Lockheed has been able to continuously upgrade its lifespan over the decades. Early variants had a limit of about 19,000 flight hours. The modern C-130J pushed that up to 45,000 hours. And recently, Lockheed introduced the Enhanced Service Life, or ESL wing, which has a proven lifespan of an astonishing 122,500 hours. The real magic here is that whenever a C-130 hits its fatigue limit or gets critically damaged, you can simply unbolt the old wing box, swap in a new one, and effectively reset the aircraft's fatigue clock completely back to zero.
Now, what's really interesting about these numbers is the financials. Yes, replacing the entire center wing box is complex, but the cost breakdown is fascinating. A standard replacement usually costs the Air Force somewhere between $6.5 and $7 million. Because of the extreme damage from that 3.81G impact at Ramstein, which included 4 rebuilt engines and extensive fuselage repairs, that specific repair bill ballooned to $20.9 million. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, right? But here's the catch. A brand new C-130J30 costs several times that amount. Fixing the ruined plane, rather than just trashing it, still saved taxpayers tens of millions of dollars.
But remember earlier when I said it took 5 years to get that Ramstein aircraft back in the sky? Why did it take so long? Well, it was an absolute logistical nightmare. Up until then, the US Air Force had only ever performed wing box replacements comfortably at home in the United States. To fix this particular plane stuck in Germany, they had to hire the Marshall Group in the UK. They actually had to build a brand new wing, meticulously pack it up, ship it across the English Channel to Germany, and use highly specialized precision jigs to perform an unprecedented field replacement right there on the base. It was a monumental, painstaking engineering feat.
Section 4. Will anything replace it?
So, the C-130 has been in continuous production for an unbelievable 71 years. Just to put that into perspective, it beats the Boeing 737's production record by a full 12 years. But surely modern aviation has something better by now, right? Well, challengers have definitely tried. Airbus built the A400M, which won some orders over in Europe, but entirely failed to truly dethrone the Herc globally. But the current serious challenger to watch? That's the Embraer C390. It's a very similar size, but instead of the Hercules 4 turboprops, the C390 uses 2 powerful IAE V2500 turbofans. Those are actually the same jet engines you'd find on an Airbus A320. It's faster, it's modern, and it's definitely gaining some serious traction with air forces around the world.
But hey, don't count the Herc out just yet, because it's still in active production today, and because you can literally reset its fatigue life with a new wing box, aviation experts predict the C-130 will remain in service for decades to come. Just like the B-52 bomber, this ugly duckling boxcar that Kelly Johnson once hated so much is on track to fly for over a century. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Knowing its incredible versatility, from catching satellites out of thin air to landing on rough dirt strips, what do you think is the absolute coolest, most bizarre role the C-130 has ever performed? Let that sink in. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.